Hello, Melissa Shimko here with Mogul Realty Group. I'm one of the senior real estate agents here on the team, and I want to talk to you today on how to choose a neighborhood. So there's lots of different components when we're looking at this from an investment standpoint on what makes sense when we're looking at how we're going to analyze a neighborhood. One of the primary things I like to consider right off the start is who's going to be managing the property? A property manager, or are you going to self-manage? It makes more sense if you're self-managing to try to choose your properties in a location that's a closer proximity to you, so that if you're having to do viewings to potential new tenants or maintenance and repairs, it'll be an easy commute for you to get to. Having them randomly spread out throughout the city can lead to some challenges around that. Although Edmonton has fairly good thoroughfares to get to where you need to go, it's always something to be aware of and think about. In conjunction with that, you need to consider amenities in your area. So things that would make sense to yourself as an individual wanting to live in a property, it's likely also going to make sense for your tenant as well. So being aware of the proximity of the property to schools, if you plan to rent your property to families, what type of schools there are. Of course, there's a variety of schools from elementary, middle to junior to senior high schools, but not even just that, but also looking at post-secondary schools. So colleges, universities, those types of educational facilities are often going to matter to people that are renting your properties. Shopping is also a really big thing to consider. Of course, we all need to purchase our groceries and need a hardware store from time to time. So what is the proximity of the property in location to those types of shopping amenities? So there's shopping, schools, and one really important factor to consider is public transportation. A lot of times you'll have older students in the house that might need transportation, to adults that are just looking for quick and easy access to different parts of the city, and you need to really be aware of transportation. There's always the comment that often gets made in the investment community of purchasing a real estate property within 800 meters of an LRT system, which is light rapid transit train system here in Edmonton, is also a really good high point to look at for the value of your property and how your tenants will also see value. So not that it's critical, but it's very nice to have that as an added touch to your investment real estate. Main thoroughfares are also a really big key for Edmontonians, and people who live here like to be able to get to different parts of our city easily. And thankfully, to the recent addition of our road transportation, we have the Anthony Henday. It does completely circle the entire city of Edmonton, and there's lots of really great access points to get onto that highway system. And that highway system, of course, leads to all of the arteries of highways that leave the city to go to different places like Calgary or Grand Prairie or Fort McMurray, which are often traveled directly from Edmonton. And so considering that, we also have Whitemud, the Whitemud Freeway, as well as the Yellowhead Trail. And so considering where your property would be located in proximity to those thoroughfares is often very relevant in acknowledging the location of where you want to have an investment property. When we're looking at how we want to purchase an investment property and the location that it's in, one of the signs that we like to look for is something called regentrification. So that is when the city or businesses have started to take an area of the city and start to regenerate it. So removing older buildings and building new ones, or that's facilities being put in such as schools, libraries, as well as the tertiary side where you're looking at different types of restaurants and movie theaters and things like that. So if you're starting to see that kind of regentrification in a neighborhood, that's a pretty good indicator that that community is going through a change, and often you can get a benefit to purchasing at a lower price point as those things are coming up around the property in comparison to purchasing in that community once everything has already been completely regentrified. So you are seeing an appreciation of the asset as the community around it goes through those changes. So as investment agents, we always keep our eye on the pulse of the city to see those areas that are undergoing those changes and keeping an eye on the price points of properties and what they're being sold for, as well as what they're being rented for. So it's very good to have an agent who understands that if you're out shopping for investment real estate. Another sign that we looked for, or look at, sorry, is crime maps. So the Edmonton Police Force does have a really great website that will show you the crime maps of the city. So if there's situations that are occurring more frequently in certain areas, you can actually see that on a map, which is a really good indicator that if you're seeing really high crime in certain areas, it's very unlikely that you're going to have a good resource to pull from of good quality tenants. Even if you do have someone that ends up living there that is a good quality tenant, it's very likely they won't stay if their car's getting broken into often, or certain scenarios like that. So having an awareness of what parts of the city have high crime that would affect your investment real estate, really important point to keep an eye on. Another thing that I really like to look at are things like Airbnbs. So checking maps to see where available Airbnbs are in certain communities. So if you do have your eye on an area and maybe it's undergoing regentrification and maybe there's an LRT that's close by and the price point looks great, it's always good to go on Airbnb and take a look and see, are there other Airbnbs in that area? What kind of rates are they charging? What do those properties look like? Because that can also be an opportunity for you to really look at how that investment property could perform differently rather than just a standard rental. Now, also keeping in mind on the rental lines of things, very important that you're going on the certain websites within the city that do post rental properties so that you can actually take a look at what an active rental rate for that area is. So that'll help you really calculate if the investment property that you're looking at meets the cash flow needs that you would want in order to purchase that property. Another really key indicator that your agent can help you out with is really understanding what historical sales have been in that area versus what the current sales are. So that'll give you an idea of what property appreciation looks like, or perhaps if you're an investor looking at doing a flip property in there where you're doing a renovation to a property and maybe a resale, you can get an idea of what rehabbed properties are selling for by looking at what the sales are for renovated properties versus properties that haven't been renovated yet. So really having an awareness of what that looks like. Well, I hope that this has been helpful to you in some way, shape, or form. Very, very important to pay attention to your neighborhood and the key indicators that make sense for investment real estate and how that really associates to choosing a neighborhood. Good investing!